Good afternoon, everyone. It is once again Ted the Speed Learner, and I'm going to do a real quick video. And this video is courtesy of Mr. It's courtesy of Mr. K-Raff, K-A-Y-R-A-H-F, and he caught a mistake on the adjacent angles video. And although what he said was a little off, he was partially correct. You can actually have adjacent angles, and the angles are not supplementary. So let's go ahead and define the difference between an adjacent angle and a supplementary angle. Okay, we have adjacent here and supplementary here. And what I'm going to say here is that any two angles that share a ray, remember, angles are objects that have two rays that meet at a common endpoint. This is ray 1, this is ray 2, this is ray 1, this is ray 2, so on and so forth. Okay, so any two angles that share a common ray are adjacent angles. And if you'll remember from a lot of my Euclid proofs, we talked about bisecting angles. Anytime you bisect an angle, you form two adjacent angles. And not always will bisected angles be supplementary angles. Now, what is a supplementary angle? A supplementary angle, what you would have is you'd have two angles, and the number of degrees in those two angles added together would become 180. And that would be supplementary angles. So if you have two angles and the number of degrees between the two of them added together becomes 180, then you have supplementary angles. So the error in my video was basically I said that all adjacent angles are supplementary, and they are not. You can have two adjacent angles and they can be complementary, and you can have two adjacent angles and they may not be complementary or supplementary. They may be two angles that, if their degrees are added together, they'd be 45 degrees. So like I said, adjacent angles are two angles that share a common ray. Supplementary angles are two angles in which if you take the number of degrees in each one and add them together, they become 180. Complementary angles are two angles in which if you take the total number of degrees between the two of them and add them together, they'll become 90 degrees. So that's the difference between complementary angles, supplementary angles, and adjacent angles. I will say, you can have adjacent angles and they can be supplementary. You can have adjacent angles and they can be complementary. And then you can have adjacent angles and you wouldn't have complementary or supplementary. So you can have adjacent supplementary angles. But not all adjacent angles are supplementary. Not all adjacent angles are complementary. I thank you for recognizing the mistake. I'm really kind of surprised. With as many people who's watched this video, I'm kind of surprised that nobody has caught this until now. But I'm glad you did. So the only point I disagree with you on is that yes, you can have adjacent supplementary angles, but you are correct, not all adjacent angles are supplementary. Hopefully we got all that corrected. I will tell you more in a future video, so stay tuned.